Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening at St James's Place. This is the first in a new series of events that we've launched in partnership with Corinthium. And I'm just going to introduce Will Rees, a partner at Corinthium, shortly, before I give you a little bit of overview of this format. Just so I get a feel for the room, who's been to a sales confidence event before? Okay, cool. So a few new faces to the experience. We really spent a lot of time over the last 5 years building this huge community of salespeople and sales leaders in the UK. And we've had some of the best speakers in Europe essentially grace our stages. So we've got a fantastic lineup of speakers tonight that will each be delivering value in kind of roughly 7 or 8 minutes. And then once they've delivered their talk, we'll also go into a Q&A. So that's your opportunity to kind of ask questions and you know, we're all salespeople or sales leaders, so let's be curious, let's ask questions of the speakers. Will is also going to talk about some of the areas around financial planning. And then I will share a little bit more about how you can invest in your own development or your teams via our membership. Just to give you an insight about this particular event concept though, and you know, we're purposely keeping it exclusive because we really want the most growth mindset individuals to get access to this information. It's fairly obvious, but we ran a survey in the summer across LinkedIn, and one of the key questions was, why are you in sales? And we had options like, because you want to help your customer, because you want to solve customers' problems, because you want to be a good individual, and then the fourth one is because you want to make money. Out of 750 people, 80%, no surprise, said they're in sales to make money. Now, you know, at the end of the day, we are very fortunate in this industry that we can become high earners. Already, if you're earning 100k, it puts you in the top 2% of earners in the UK. So it's pretty exciting what you can achieve in your career. And as part of that, we have launched a series of steps to basically give you a success pathway from 100 to 150 to 200 to 250 and beyond. And we've got plaques that represent that. So we've just launched that, and that's going to be an exciting component of it. But ultimately, and Will, maybe you can fill us in on why we got connected, but I don't know where some of you are at in your career, but for example, I worked for a number of companies and got 5 separate pensions before I realised that it was a good idea to consolidate them, and that took me until the age of 32. I'm now 36 now, so I missed the trick. Also, when I first earned 100k at 25, I got the HMRC letter that I needed to do a self-assessment. I didn't know you had to do a self-assessment, right? This is some basics that I feel Will can bring to the table. So tonight really is an opportunity to learn, connect with people in the room, and learn more about how Will and I can support you going forward. Will?
Thanks, James. No, you nailed it. I won't add much more to that, but thank you everyone for giving up your evening and joining us. Thank you. Money matters. Of course it does, and hopefully you learn something from the sort of sales leaders we've got on panel tonight, but also my session at the end. As James just said, we just need to know the basics. If you're going to work in enterprise software sales for decades, you know, hopefully some of you want to get out early. That's often something I hear. You do need a plan. You do need to be on top of some of the basic things. So I'll share a bit about it later, and obviously we're here afterwards for a quick chat if you need anything. And there's a Q&A at the end.
Yes.
Look forward to it. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Really excited to do this. So we're going to invite our first speaker up this evening. If you didn't figure this out, he's actually Will's brother. You can decide if it's his younger or older brother when he gets up on stage. So Ray Rees is the head of sales at Total Mobile. He's going to be covering the concept of joining a PE-backed SaaS business in a senior leadership role, his experiences and lessons learned. You know, many people talk about moving into leadership. So what does that mean when you make that transition? Also, how do you map out success and get there? That's important. So Ray's been in sales for over 11 years, 6 of those in sales leadership. His big break came in 2016, where he secured an AE role at BMC Software. And there he was able to be mentored and managed by a number of world-class leaders around the kind of medic sales methodology. At BMC, he established himself as a top-performing AE, delivering 150 and 200% of his quota. That led to him being moved into a sales director role, then into an area director role, and he grew the business by 30% in his first year running the region. In 2020, he decided to take on a new challenge, and he's now the head of sales of Total Mobile, managing a team of 5 managers, 28 salespeople, on for a record-breaking year. So can we have a round of applause for our first speaker?
Great intro, I wrote it. So.
Always helps.
Yeah, it always helps.
All right, let's get this into presenter here.
Well, I'll just start. So, yeah, thanks everyone. I kind of got roped into this by my brother, so hopefully it's going to be useful. I've not done anything like this before, so that's the first kind of disclaimer, I guess. But when I had the opportunity to do it, I was thinking, well, the first thing I've got to do is come up with a relevant topic or a topic that I think will be useful. And I've obviously attended talks like this before. I've kind of watched videos of talks like this before, and I've had conversations over my career with inspirational leaders and mentors. And I was looking back and thinking, well, what stands out in those conversations and presentations? And I realized that the things I remembered most and the things that I extracted most value from were stories, people telling me about their careers, what they'd done, the challenges they'd overcome, the things that they were doing, the things they were planning to do, and how I could apply them to my life and my career. So that very quickly led me to this topic, which is a particular point in my career, which was, as James has just mentioned, transitioning from BMC Software, which is this US headquartered, multi-billion-dollar powerhouse global software company, to a much smaller UK headquartered kind of niche SaaS company, which is more in growth mode, which is a really, it's been a fascinating transition, truth be told, and it's something I want to talk about, basically. So, with that in mind, and considering I'm here to talk about that and me and what I've been up to, I figured that the best place to start would be page 1 of my business plan, the business plan I'm executing at the moment. And this is a bit cheesy, but this is what I recommend page 1 of every business plan to be. For all of my team members, this is what I ask them to do. So it's basically connecting yourself with your personal and professional goals, because that's what we're here to do, right? That's what gets us out of bed in the morning. So before you get into the nitty-gritty of business planning, territory analysis, people analysis, all the stuff we do as leaders when we're planning how we're going to grow a region, why are we doing this? Why are we here? What are we doing? So for me, it's these things. I'm not going to talk about them too much because I don't have time. But my wife Amy, my young daughter Evie, I was just talking about with you there, Heather. So there's lots of personal stuff. There's lots of professional stuff. I'm really passionate about sales leadership, learning, growing, building, and being part of great high-performing teams. So that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. Just to kind of set the scene, James kind of mentioned my career path at BMC, which I can't speak highly enough of my time there. I was really fortunate, I think, to land there at the time that I did. This kind of MEDDIC sales process, structured methodology with high-quality leaders, some of the most brilliant leaders in the industry. For me to be in that environment at the point that I was just perfect. It was like a match made in heaven, right? And things just really accelerated from there. And then, however, by the time I got to become area director of the UK and Ireland, I kind of had this itch I needed to scratch a little bit. I'd seen, and this is where I think we get into the kind of money matters career stuff, because these are little decisions we have to make along the way in our careers about, and why are we making them, what we're trying to achieve. And for me, I don't know, I guess the idea of going into where I was, even though I was running the UK and Ireland region, it's still a relatively small cog in a big machine. All the decisions are getting made in Houston, Texas. It's kind of PE owned, but really I'm not really close to that detail in any way, shape or form. I'm just kind of executing my own little world in the UK. So I found this company, Total Mobile, and it really, really excited me. And the opportunity, the aspects of the opportunity that were most appealing were these, I guess. So I could take on full ownership of the sales function, end to end. And the best way I can think to describe or bring that to life, I guess, is that my forecast is the company forecast now, rather than my forecast being part of UK forecast, which rolls up into the EMEA, which rolls into Globe. My forecast is literally what gets reported to the board and our ownership, which I really liked, and I got get to get a lot more visibility as a result. UK headquartered, PE owned, and obviously, don't think we're all friends here. Significant stock with ability to sell the company in the next 2 to 3 years, which was attractive. On top of that are my sort of non-negotiables. These are things that I'm sure we all think about. When you're looking to move company, I would always recommend growing market, differentiated solution, and great people. You can validate all those things in a recruitment process very easily. Growing market, you can look at third-party leadership, third-party kind of literature to see if the market you're in is growing. Is there money being spent? Solution, you can get a demo, you can talk to customers, read case studies, all that stuff. And people, you can speak to as many people as you can in the company to get a feel for whether it's a great place you want to work. Now, in terms of the people at Total Mobile, this is where it got really interesting. So I inherited a team. I had at the time 19 salespeople and 3 managers. And this was quite a uncomfortable situation, to be honest, because I'd previously obviously moved from IC into leader, and I'd kind of been there, done that, worn the t-shirt, and had earned my stripes, if you like. So this was a new experience for me, straight off the bat, to be inheriting a team and have all these people looking back at me, probably quite skeptical, wondering, who's this guy, what's he going to do for me? And they were kind of an underperforming team, great people, but just had no structure, no direction, weren't really realising their potential. So I'm sure they were all skeptical. In fact, I know they were, because they've now told me that they were. But it was really, really fast. And I thought to myself, well, how am I going to approach this? Because I've not done this before. And whenever I'm in a situation like that, I think back to, I think we're all just a kind of sum of the parts of the experiences we've had, the kind of advice we've been given. And there were 3 particular pieces of advice I was given which shaped how I approached this. He would never forgive me if I didn't put him up on this slide. A guy called Reece Thomas. So he's been my mentor and manager for many, many years. And he's always talking to me about bringing energy and bring your personality to the table. You know, I think we can fall into the trap of just getting too entrenched in the detail and the operational side of things without bringing our energy and personality. This is a guy called Paul Kant. Some of you may recognise him, I don't know. He's recently been appointed as the global CRO of BMC. He's moved through the ranks there. Very scary guy. Hope he doesn't watch this back. But very impressive guy. And I remember when I moved into my first leadership role, he called me and he said that, basically. When you take on a new team, you've got to find a way to add value to them as quickly as possible. Even like if you have to manufacture it and create it out of thin air, find a way to add value to them as quickly as possible. Even if they're skeptical, even if they're not entirely sure, hey, what's this guy about? I'm not sure if I like this. You know, we want to progress our own worlds. If someone adds value to you, you're going to gravitate towards them. But I think the most important was this guy here. He's a guy called Peter Leave. So about 2 years into my time at BMC, I don't know if that's a clip from the actual story I'm about to tell you, but let's pretend it is. 2 years into my time at BMC, they appointed this guy, Peter Leave, as the new CEO. Proper like all-American hero, like strides in, full of energy. Again, we're sitting there because it was a few weeks into his time at BMC. It was a sales kickoff event in Las Vegas. So there's 2,000 salespeople in this auditorium, and the first point on the agenda is Peter Leave introducing himself and doing like a keynote opening. And we never spoke about it, the group of people I was with, but I think everyone expected it to be a bit of a, meet and greet. Hey, I'm a few weeks in, I'm finding my feet, 100-day plan, a bit of kind of generic overview, and then sit down and let the people do the talking who've been here for years. But what this guy delivered, I will never, ever forget. He strode on the stage, and without any notes or prompting or anything, he had his slides, and he delivered this like super detailed but super compelling presentation about the market, the company, the products, the strategy. He had a new strategy he was launching. We were like learning things about our business from this guy who had been here like 3 weeks. And you could feel the kind of energy in the room. Like everyone was sort of like sitting up in their chairs a little bit like, holy shit, this guy is a serious player. He's a serious, and in an instant, within like a 20, 30 minute presentation, he had like 2,000 salespeople in the palm of his hand, basically. And I was like, wow, that's a really powerful thing. And I'm not going to pretend that what I was doing was on that scale, but I think you can tap into that approach, basically. So I thought, okay, well, I sort of changed my thinking then of how I was going to approach this transition, because I had a month off between BMC and Total Mobile, and I planned to put my feet up, truth be told, and chill out a bit, drink a few beers, relax, go on holiday, all that kind of stuff. And I did do a lot of that, but I thought I'm going to spend some time doing some proper research now, and I'm going to arrive in my first week and set my stall out and have a plan and have a view of how I was going to take things forward. Now, clearly, you don't fully know what you're going to do until you get in the door and you speak to the people and you speak to the customers and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't want to just turn up with a blank sheet of paper, basically. So my first 2 days, I arranged 15-minute kind of calls with every single member of the team. That took up 2 days. That was fine. And on my third day, I got the whole team together for what I called a sales kickoff event, but really it was just introductions, training, and I launched a business plan on day 3. And some of the team talked to me about that now, and it really did set the tone, I think. And what I want to do now is show you some of that plan, because it's still being executed today, nearly 2 years later. So this was January 22. So we're still in the process of executing this plan. And I want to show it to you, basically, and talk to you about some of it. So I don't know if you've heard of this, or if anyone's heard of this structure called a VSEM. It was kind of taught to me a few years back, and I found it a really, really useful way when you're business planning to kind of gather your thoughts on a page for how then the detail behind your plan will go thereafter. But it gives you a really graphical view of how your plan is going to be structured. So VSEM stands for Vision, Strategies, Execution, and Metrics. So to bring that to life with my actual plan, this is our vision for our team, and it will continue to be for as long as I'm here. You can read it for yourself, but it's all about delighting our customers, accelerating the company's growth ambitions, which are ambitious, and then achieving our personal and professional goals, which I spoke about earlier. That's the team we want to be. That's how we want to go about things. The next bit is probably the most important, or certainly leads to being the most important. What are the strategies? What are the kind of headings for what we're going to try and achieve? And I landed on these 4 things, and I hope now, if you were to call a member of my team and ask them what the 4 strategies of the Total Mobile Sales business plan are, they would be able to tell you. I'd be very disappointed if they couldn't, because we bang on about it all the time. But these are the things that we build all of our energy, all of our activity around, these four topics. And they're very simple, and I'm a very simple man. So we grow the pipeline, and we improve conversion. Those are the first 2 things. And just to pause on those 2 things for a minute. If as sales leaders, all we do is grow the pipeline, we will close more revenue. That's an obvious thing to say. More pipeline, more deals. Stands to reason. If we don't do that, but all we do is improve conversion, then we will also close more deals, because with the same amount of pipeline, you'll close more of it. If we do both of those things, then it's a force multiplier, basically. So that's the logic. So grow pipeline, improve conversion, increase average deal size. We want to be operate more as an enterprise vendor, multi-product enterprise deals, 6-7-figure ARR deals. And then a plan of this level of, I think, if I can say that, sophistication, requires a very high quality team to execute it. So we had to prioritize people, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So this really helped us, because now every single thing we've done since day 1 to today fits under one or more of these headings. So I'm just going to give you a few examples of the execution and some of the things that we're doing underneath each. So grow the pipeline. I could talk to you for ages about these things, and I will resist the urge to do that. We launched a new PG process. We do lots of PG, pipeline generation, and training. We run monthly PG days, 2 days a month. Everyone's in the office PGing. 1 minute. Jesus. Okay, I'm going to keep going. And then we measure each of those things against that. Improve conversion. We launched a new sales process. This concept of engagement excellence, and a new SharePoint site, lots of things we did around conversion, but it's all about sales process and execution in conversion. Really, really critical. We've got the pipeline built. What are we doing with it? How well do we treat it? How we want to convert as much of it as we possibly can by putting it through a world-class sales process. And we can measure lots of things along the way there. Increasing our average deal size, we completely reinvented the messaging, how we were going to market. Rather than individual products, we're talking about platform. We've launched a strategic sales team. I've done lots of training, a large deal training as well. Lots of things around that. And then people is the most important aspect. So the first thing I did on this box here was I tapped into my network. I couldn't do this on my own. So I've recruited 7 people out of my network to join Total Mobile, people I've worked with in the past and that I trust and that are like-minded. And that's helped us to move a lot more quickly. Managers and salespeople, etc. New recruitment process. We launched an LMS platform. We launched the Sales Academy. We do lots of leadership training. And we can measure lots of things around that. So this is the organization today after that transformation. So we've grown the team. We've restructured the team. And we've now got 29 salespeople and 5 managers. And these are some of the, just to prove to you I'm not making it up, these are some of the things that we're doing. These are screenshots from some of the stuff. So you've got there our sales process, the development plan that all of our reps will have, the Calidus platform, screenshot from the monthly PG days that we run, the business plan that all the sales reps have to create, the SharePoint site, our platform messaging, all the stuff that we're doing, all of it fits under those headings. And we can obviously measure on a daily basis whether or not this stuff is actually working. So the metrics, I guess, under each heading that are most impactful, I think, are our pipeline is double the size that it was when I joined. Our conversion rate has gone from 24% to 30%, our lifetime conversion rate. Average deal size has gone up by 14%. And the one I'm most proud of, I think, our FY is January to December, so we're 10 months into the FY. We've had literally 0% attrition across that team. So it's a brilliant team, great culture, but a thing I've learned, I think, above all else, is that you can have all the great processes and structure in the world, you haven't got the right team, it's pointless. It's like Pep Guardiola managing the dog and duck pub teams, and just not going to work, right? It just doesn't work. So the most important thing, I guess, is the outcomes. This is what the board care about. We've had 5 consecutive record quarters. We're on track for 40% year-on-year bookings growth. We've recently announced our expansion into Australia because of our growth and success in the UK. So we've just incorporated our Australian entity and hired 2 people out in Australia. And we're growing in the UK, so we're hiring in the UK as well. It's not a recruitment pitch, I promise. Last slide from me. Lessons learned, I guess. So leveraging the network and the people was important, preparing to add value, bring your personality, maintain connection to your goals at all times. And the thing I think I don't do particularly well is enjoy the ride, because it's tough, right? The one thing, these PE-backed smaller businesses that are in growth mode, it's like you're under the microscope 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But one thing I actually, in putting these slides together, is I actually have enjoyed it. It's actually good fun. But I'm not enjoying it in the moment, if you like. So I think that's the thing that I've kind of learned from actually putting these slides together and doing this presentation is, enjoy the ride a little bit more. So that was it. Hopefully useful. Any questions towards the end, then happy to take them.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Ray. Didn't think I'd be thanking my bro off the stage, that's for sure.
I think the thing that probably resonated for me, regretting later, so it was a good presentation, bro, was leverage your network. Obviously, James and I talk about that a lot, sales confidence. We learn from others. We talked about Reece, almost, and Paul Camp, and obviously the new CEO. We can learn from others that are further along than us and perhaps know a little bit more. On to the next speaker, Heather Patterson. Thanks for joining us at quite short notice. Really appreciate it. So a bit about Heather, Sales Director at Okta. I'm going to talk to us about the 1% margin, the fundamentals. The key to unlocking career success is getting the basics right and finding the room for improvement. So just that 1% lead. A bit more background, an impressive sales leader with a decade of experience in London, Australia, Asia and Japan, where she has produced consistent double-digit revenue growth. Impressive in terms of professionalism, bias for action, and a focus on delivering value for her customers. A passionate advocate for diversity outside of work, and a proud mum and partner. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for having me this evening. It's a great forum. I've spent the last decade living in Australia, so this is my first year back in the UK for 10 years, and it's great to see these communities, so I'm really happy to be asked to take part. I still have notes because I was asked on Friday to participate. I had a busy weekend with my family, and as we know in sales, time expands to the task required, and it certainly was applicable for this today. Will is going to be talking about money and investment. So I did have a panic when I saw Money Matters and thought they've definitely got the wrong person. I will not be giving any money advice. I can talk to you about how to spend it, but certainly not how to save it. But that leads me on. I was reflecting about what could I share today, what would be useful, similar to our previous talk, from my career, what would be transferable and how have I accelerated? And the question I often get asked is, how did I end up in sales leadership? How did I end up being responsible for a multi-geo, multi-revenue business in Asia Pacific? And how did I get there by my early 30s? And I think there are a couple of key concepts that are transferable, and those are your discipline, your ownership, and also the metrics behind your peak performance, so knowing those drivers. And so I'd like to start by talking about discipline. I think this is, in sales, we already know what we need to do to be successful. Your manager probably has already told you all of the data. You can talk to the most successful people in your business and understand how they've been successful. And sales is a numbers game. And for me, certainly as an AE, but definitely as a leader, the science, the math behind the sales gives me a lot of comfort. And I started my sales career actually in America as a student, selling books, educational books, door to door. And there is a lot of discipline in that. You're up at 5:59 every day. You knocked on doors until 9:31 every night. You faced more rejection than you'll ever know even on a call-out blitz day. And some days you sold everything, and some days you had donut days. And it's that discipline around activity. And so, as I was thinking about it today, what are the 1% things the people in my team, the people like me, can do every day to accelerate their success? And I was thinking about it as I was commuting in. And there's a choice you make, right? When you're on the train or on the tube or on the boat to work, as I used to live in Sydney. Why did I leave? I'm not sure. So you make a choice. Do you doom scroll through your socials, through your news articles, or are you thinking about tuning into one of your customers' most recent, what am I trying to say? I put it down here, the earnings call. That's the word I'm looking for, the earnings call. Are you listening to their earnings call and hearing about what is driving their business? Are you preparing for the meetings you have that day with provocative questions? Are you scanning org charts thinking, gosh, I'm meeting Mike, but Mike knows Jane, and Jane is not answering any of my emails. Should I be asking for a referral in? Are you using your time to make those 1% changes? So none of those things, I hope, are new tactics as far as improving your sales productivity, but it's a choice, and that's the discipline, is the choice there. So they're easy decisions to do, they're easy decisions to not do, and that really is the message about discipline. And that brings me on to ownership, which is my second takeaway from today. So as I mentioned, I knew as a AE, I knew the numbers I needed to be successful. And there's discipline in the numbers. What calls are you making? How many meetings are you going on? Play the mathematics around your success, and be patient with it. It does sometimes take time. I was extremely competitive. If there was a measure for my success, I worked it, and I made sure I was visible. And when you start to show performance, you also have the opportunity of your internal brand. You get visibility because you're at the top of the leaderboards, or top 3. And with that platform, you have an opportunity. So when I was working for a company in Australia, I'd found it wasn't the most dynamic workplace. I'd come from a fantastic organisation here in the UK where their culture for sales was buzzy, it was energetic. They had sales performance dashboards, they had competitions, they had incentives. I suddenly found myself in an organisation where they had none of that. I performed, and then I identified that actually I have a role to play in culture change. And whilst I wasn't a leader at that point, I brought ideas to my leader and said, why don't we do this? So I guess when I talk about ownership, I'm talking about how you can... I was acting as a leader before I had the title. I was identifying areas where in that company they could improve results beyond just my performance. I could scale that across the team. And so I always tell this to people in my team, your career is not my responsibility as your manager. It's your responsibility. It's not your parents' responsibility. It's not your partner's responsibility. It's your responsibility. If you've got ideas, if you've got suggestions for how you might be able to improve something in your current organisation, you should take those to your manager. You should talk about, this is an initiative I want to run. Do you need budget for it? These are the outcomes. Be specific. and then go and have a bit of fun with it. So that's I think how I drove progression in my career. And then I was trying to find some stats around this. I'm sure it's not a surprise to hear from anybody, but a study by the University of Georgia found that employees who engage in regular exercise were 15% more likely to have higher job performance. And 15% is actually quite a large number there, right? I'm only talking about making 1% decisions to impact your career. But bringing in exercise for me is important because that fuels my peak performance, and you have to know what drives your peak performance. A very good friend of mine during COVID talked about this concept called starting the day on your terms, because in COVID we were all kind of, we don't have to commute anymore. We don't have to even really get dressed anymore. We can just roll out of bed and be on our laptop. I am a morning person, so that this does resonate with me. But starting the day and doing something for me first became a multiplier, so to speak, on my performance. Because if I've run, I used to swim. I don't do that anymore. Or whether it's just walk the dog or just get outside or do something for you, read, meditate, Fortunately, my baby's actually a great sleeper, so I still get to start the day on my terms if I want. But that 1% decision normally actually starts the night before. When do I go to bed? And did I set my alarm? Am I making space for me to go and do something for me first? And then there's that, if you're getting into finance speak, there's the compound interest of that 1%. There we go. Thank you. Of making that 1% decision through your day. I come with more energy. I come with more enthusiasm. I come with more passion because I've started the day on my terms. And guess what? These are nothing I've said today is new news, but I'm telling you, not everybody is doing this because the difficulty in discipline is consistency. It's not difficult to think about preparing well for a meeting, but how well are you preparing for all your meetings? And that's the 1%er. So if I leave you with anything today, think about the 1% change you can make tomorrow to impact your results. Recognize that you have to trust the process. It does take time for those compound results, the impact of those habits to change. But do the right thing. Look for ways to constantly improve and finish strong.
Thank you very much. Great job. Fantastic. So our next speaker is Alex Stewart. Alex Stewart is recently been the sales director of a company called Store Lab. He's going to be sharing quite an authentic talk around his lessons from burnout, allowing yourself to feel emotional and comfortable with challenges you might be facing. Also, what is the required discipline to be a successful IC and leadership? Alex has spent the majority of his career scaling startups and SMBs. The first startup he worked for was Get Agent, where he joined as employee number 4, scaled the business to 500k per month in 24 months. From there, he joined OneDome, where he grew OneDome into the 4th biggest property portal in the UK. And most recently, he was the sales director at Store Lab, where he grew the team from 0 to 7. He's also a sales confidence leadership member, and I'm excited to hear his talk. Over to you.
Oh, hello. Thank you, James. Thank you for the nice words. I did write them, so stealing your joke. So hello, I'm Alex. Thank you, James. Oh, stand closer. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me this evening, James, and thank you, Will, for hosting us. It's very kind of you. As James said, I have spent most of my career in startups, scaling startups to scale-ups, and then into SMBs. Kind of caught the bug when I was 23 and I joined Get Agent. Everything was going right for us. We were killing it. We raised funding round after funding round. We tripled our team one year, tripled it again the next year. and then we had to double it again. I ended up getting very bad burnout when I was about 26. It came just after we've successfully closed the funding round, tripled our B2C team, doubled our B2B team, and had a successful TV ad campaign go out. I thought I was invincible. All I did was work. I thought about work all the time, while also trying to go out on the smash 4 or 5 nights of the week because I was 26. And I was also trying to maintain a six-pack because I was 26. All of this came to quite an aggressive head when one day I kind of caught what I thought was a cold. 6 weeks later, I still wasn't back at work. So I was off work for about 6 weeks, and then for a further 4 weeks, kind of had to slowly ease myself back into things. I learned 4 really important lessons from burnout that I kind of apply to my day-to-day, and I encourage everyone in my teams to apply to themselves. Number 1 is allow yourself to feel your emotions. For anyone here rolling your eyes thinking another bloody mindfulness talk, I promise you it's not a mindfulness talk. Number 2, as Heather's already touched on, be disciplined. Number 3, curiosity and cultivate a abundance mindset. And number 4, true objectivity is your biggest friend. I'm going to focus on numbers 1 and 2 because they are what can add the most value to an IC and also a recent leader. For those of you that have slightly more experience, I'm afraid a lot of this you may already know. So, feeling your emotions. Sales is obviously super stressful. We know it's very stressful. It's also even more stressful when you're working for a company that has yet to break even because literally the entire fate of however many people are working for you is on your shoulders. If you're not careful, that stress can very quickly compound, consolidates into some awful feelings inside yourself, and you end up in a pretty dark place pretty quickly. So the most important thing I would say is allow yourself to feel how you're feeling. Emotions are not facts. Feelings are not facts. They are, in fact, your body's way of trying to communicate with you. They are delivering a message for you. And if, as an IC or a leader, you want true peak performance, you have to be able to interpret the messages that your body is sending you. I think it's really strange that we live in a world, or certainly in the UK, a society that fetishizes repressing emotion, and arguably in sales we have a grizz it out mentality. You just kind of, everyone knows that discipline, the more calls you make, the more deals you make, but often it comes at the cost of how we're actually feeling. Emotional intelligence, according to 20 years of scientific and business research, is 2 times more likely to indicate success in leaders and salespeople than IQ. So understanding how you're feeling is really important. 3 practical tips that anyone can adopt from tomorrow. Number 1 is emotions are contagious. We've all walked into a room and thought, oh, someone's having a terrible day here. Or our manager's left the meeting and it's obvious they're super stressed, super annoyed, and you kind of think you're about to get a rocket. The reverse is also true. If someone's happy, if someone's upbeat, if someone's confident, it spreads through a team. As a leader, you have a responsibility to make sure the energy you are putting out and you are giving your team is the right kind of energy, and you're not being a Dementor. Sorry if you're not a Harry Potter fan. As an IC, you have a responsibility to make sure that the energy you're bringing to your discovery calls, your demo calls, even your cold calling block is the right kind of energy. If you start to fire out the wrong kind of energy, I guarantee you your results are going to slump. If you don't understand how you are actually feeling, I guarantee you there's no way you will know the energy that you're putting out. So make sure you start to understand how you're feeling so you can start to be accountable for the energy that you're putting out into a room. Number 2, around feeling your emotions, is mindset. I'm sure everyone in this room has had a day, a week, a month, a year where they smash everything and they can dial in really, really hard and easily into the right mindset that allows them to smash everything. Most people don't get that because most people don't understand what it takes to kind of flip a switch from your child's cried all night, right? And you've had a terrible night's sleep. They don't understand that they need to flip the switch. They need to let themselves get into a certain emotional state. Maybe you've had an argument with your partner. And again, you need to flip into a certain emotional state to allow you to smash the contract negotiation you've got coming up, or your cold call block, whatever it might be. If you're not in tune with how you're feeling, you will never be able to consistently get your mindset right. I guarantee you, if nobody takes anything else away from this, other than understanding how to flip your mindset, easily, your results will skyrocket. And the number 3 thing, leaders and salespeople have a lot in common. The number 1 thing they have in common is essentially it's our jobs to understand the emotion of a room, understand the emotion and feelings of the person you're talking to. Similar to kind of giving out the energy, being an energy provider, if you're not in tune with how you're actually feeling, there is no way you're going to understand how your prospect's feeling, how your team member's feeling, how possibly someone on another team's feeling. But if you're a salesperson about to hand something over to the account management team and you can see that the account manager is having a terrible day and don't do anything about it, you're setting yourself up for fail as well. So if you can't understand how you're feeling, you'll never be able to understand how other people around you are feeling, which means you won't be able to sell to them as effectively, or you won't be able to drive performance amongst your team as effectively. The second part, as Heather's already touched on, is discipline. For me, discipline is the building block of literally every part of high performance. It's a topic I'm pretty passionate about and could bore you all for hours on. I won't. I'm going to keep it pretty high level. Everyone in sales knows that if you make a certain number of phone calls, you'll get a certain number of deals. They also, everyone knows that if you want to be really good at sales, you've got to work at what you're not good at. That's, for me, only half of where you need to be disciplined. There are, in my experience, 3 other areas where you need to be on it. Number 1 is being disciplined and normalizing saying no. Particularly actually in your personal life, but I'll touch on that in a second. Professionally, saying no is super important. You're much better off doing 3 things incredibly well than 5 things really averagely. If you're constantly asked to do things, it's really flattering, right? Everyone's like, oh, I'm being asked to do things, I'm doing a great job. But quickly what you'll find, if you're not careful, is you take on work you don't have the bandwidth for. Suddenly you find yourself overwhelmed. You're not able to deliver your normal standard of work. Suddenly you're doing 5 things, possibly even badly. You then find yourself with a reputation for being overwhelmed, stressed. Suddenly people aren't asking you to do things and your performance is plummeting. So if you're going to say yes to work, make sure either you have the bandwidth for it, say no, or you make it really, really clear that something else is going to have to be dropped in order for you to execute it to a level that people like and people expect from you. The other side to saying no is, unfortunately, in your personal life. Now, I'm going to caveat this with, I'm not saying you should be a monk. Go out, get drunk, have a good time with your friends, see your family, do whatever makes you happy, right? But peak performance at work has to come with an element of saying no in your personal life. As I found, if you're going out 4 nights of the week and you feel vaguely like a carcass, there's not a huge amount. You can't keep going to the well to perform well at work the next day. You've got to be responsible for how often you're going out. Are you taking care of your diet? Are you exercising enough? Say no in your personal life to make sure you're performing to the best of your ability at work. As I say, there's that obvious caveat, don't be a monk, do the things you enjoy, because the number 2 part of being disciplined is making sure you don't become all about work. It makes you miserable. Work can follow you around like a black cloud. Everyone's come off a call and thought, I should have done this better. I could have done this better. Everyone's come out of a one-to-one meeting with someone on their team or a team talk and thought, oh God, I should have said this. 1 minute, God, I'll be quick. He's going to start playing music in a second. Make sure you prioritize what's important to you outside of work. Make sure, as Heather says, you keep exercising, you keep doing whatever it is that allows you that release valve. Sales is super, super stressful. In my experience, managing salespeople can be even more stressful. So it's really important that you have a way, a valve, to let that stress go. So make sure, no matter what happens, and I know it's tempting to let it go, but make sure you are strict with yourself about doing things you enjoy and not sacrificing your you time. The final area to be disciplined in is everyone talks a lot about raising a ceiling. Everyone wants to have a record week every week. The reality of life is that's just not going to happen. One thing people who I've managed will know, and we've got one of them here, Kelvin, I'm going to embarrass you, is I talk a lot about raising your floor. The idea behind raising your floor is that you consistently work on bringing up your average. Whether it's you do an extra 1% of phone calls, whether it's that the one objection that you really struggle with, you spend a bit of extra time doing it. Focus on raising your floor, be disciplined with raising your floor, and don't get distracted around chasing raising your ceiling. It's far too easy to try and chase a record week every week. Everyone in this room will know that that doesn't happen. If you focus on consistently raising your average, you'll find that you are top of your company very quickly, and you'll find that record weeks are suddenly much more within your distance because you actually don't have as far to go. If you think about it in a sprinting term, if you know that the world record for sprinting is 9.69 seconds and you're running a 12-second 100 meters, you've got a long way to go. But if your average 100 meter is 9.8, you can find ways to shave that off. All you really need is a good tailwind. I'm told I'm a terrible sprinter. But be disciplined around raising your floor. It's one of the best ways you can improve as an IC. I'm not going to go into the other two because James will start playing music at me, but if anyone wants to talk about them in detail afterwards, I'm happy to bore you about it. I hope everyone's found something that they can take away and apply from this. And yeah, happy to answer any questions later.
Thank you. Well done. Cool. So our final speaker up now is our wonderful co-host, and just want to check. So, one of the things that I think, and it's been mentioned in this already, not surprisingly by his older brother, is how you show up and bring energy. I've had tons of financial planners reach out to me over the last 10 years, in fact, and I've ignored 99% of them. They really need some tips from SaaS salespeople on how to outreach and be active, almost as bad as recruiters. But Will was incredibly proactive. My best mate is one of his clients that I grew up with, and it became very obvious to me how much energy and passion he's got to improve the financial outcomes for people in this industry. And I think together, over the next 5 to 10 years, we've really evolved a niche. So Will started his career as a private banking advisor. For the last 4 or 5 years, he's built and developed this wealth management firm, Corinthium, as part of St. James's Place, is now a partner, I believe. So over to you. Can we have a round of applause?
Thank you very much, James.
Is that you, yeah?
That's the one. Lovely. There we are. Now, I've been tasked of trying to make this interesting based on tax. So I'll give it my best shot. And I think the place we're going to start with is the comment that James made at the start. And this wasn't the catalyst for why James and I connected. As you said, I was introduced to James by an existing client. But I think we need to take a moment to sit here and agree that you wouldn't put yourself under so much stress, under so much pressure, the constant anxiety, the relentlessness of SaaS sales, if it wasn't for the financial rewards. And it's okay to talk about it. The first thing we need to do is accept that it's okay to talk about. We want to earn life-changing money, and it goes back to, regrettably, talk about your personal and professional goals. You've got a family to look after. You've got a future to secure. We have to earn a certain degree of money to look after ourselves and our families. Nobody else will do that for us. So it's okay to talk about the need to earn as much as you can. But what we often find in SaaS sales is there's this obsession with earning more, but there's no plan to deal with it at all. And it's quite worrying how many people I speak to each week, 15 to 20. I think I can count on one hand the amount of ICs or leaders I've met that've got it nailed. And I think there's 2 reasons for that. The first one is confidence. People just don't know what to do. They're not going to make the wrong decision. They're worried about it like you would do with your customers, right? If they're worried about doing the wrong thing, inaction. But I think one of the main drivers is most people just don't have the time. And I think what I want to get out of this session today is to sort of provoke a reaction from you all to go, which, you know what, I don't have the time, but I need to make time. I need to think about this. I need to get out of the mindset of, what am I on for the quarter? What's my PG plan? What am I actually doing all of this for? Because eventually the quarter rolls into the next, the financial year rolls into the next, and you'll be going, well, actually, what's the end result of all of this? What do I want in my life? And I think the sooner we can give that time, and that's what James and I are sort of campaigning to achieve, is getting in front of people earlier to give them that space to go, look, let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about what others in a similar position are doing. Yes, we're all facing these things, right? I'm growing a business myself. All of the things on here are existing, okay? But we need to make time for our own life goals. Because people don't find the time, and James mentioned one of these today, I'm going to start with it. These are sort of the 3 key challenges that we see. And as I just said, I hope this provokes a reaction. I hope there are people sat here today going, yeah, this is me. And I hope you can take some comfort in knowing you're not alone. I can almost guarantee there will be people in here that have old pensions. I'm going to hazard a guess you don't know where they are, how they're invested, how they're performing, what your options are, what income it could give you in retirement. We don't want to have unanswered questions. We need to have control. There's a massive problem in your industry. If you think about the average tenure of an IC, I think I read recently it's 15 months. These slides needs updating. And again, a leader, less than 3 years is what I've read. If you think about conceivably working in SaaS sales for 2 to 3 decades, this is going to be a common challenge. This is an obvious problem, but let's think about the comp plan of an IC today. The example I always give, you're 100K base, you've got 100K OTE, you're paying 10% of your basic into your pension. An IC's goal is to hit the number, right? Everyone would agree, overachieve, that's all you want to do. But based on your comp structure, you're only ever going to pay 10% of your basic into a pension. So you hit your number, you earn 200, now you're only paying 5% of your total earnings towards your future. There's a huge disparity. And we see this over decades. We meet senior sales leaders earning $500,000 plus, got a bit of a case study later, and they've got less than 200K in a pension. How are you meant to maintain that standard of living? The problem is there's no plan. There's no time, there's no confidence, all the things I've just mentioned. If we don't have a plan for this, the impact is we lose more, right? We know that. Whether it's inflation, that's been all over the news in the last 12 months or so. You look at inflation over, say, 100 years, it's about 4%. So if we forecast that over the next 20 to 30 years for the people in the room, if your money does not achieve 4% per year, you're losing the value. Your hard work's being undone. And obviously tax. There's not a person in this room that probably wouldn't have something quite animated to say about the amount of tax that they are, dare I say, losing. We can't change regulation, let's be clear. We can't go outside of the rules, but we can be more efficient with it. So these are sort of the 3 challenges that we see. Here are 4 tax solutions, and you'll notice the compliance wording at the bottom, as always, that you need to be aware of. And that's all today is. It's just an awareness point. This can't be advice. I don't know enough about any of you, and I can't specifically go into each one. But here are the 4 that we focus on for ICs and leaders. An obvious one is pensions. Now, why have I highlighted 60 on the left? That's your allowance for this year. So think about that comp structure. If I've got a 100K base and I'm paying 10%, I'm paying 10 grand in, I've still got 50K available. And I can also go back 3 tax years as well. Let me explain why that's important for you guys. Let's take a 200K example. If you pay 20K into a pension, it immediately becomes 25. So that's a 5 grand gain straight away. That's tax you've already paid. So immediately make 5,000 back. You keep 5,000 more. When you do your self-assessment, you can claim another 6,250. So that actual contribution only costs you 13,750, but you add 25K to your retirement funds. Everybody knows about ISAs. It doesn't just have to be a cash ISA. You can invest in ISAs. And again, it's a must-use allowance. You have to use it by April 5th. If you miss out on that allowance by April 5th, you can't get it again. So whereas pensions, you can go back 3 years, you don't put 20K into an ISA by April 5th, you've lost it forever. The importance of ISAs, obviously, I'm sure you know, but just to recap, tax-free growth, fully accessible. The final 2, I'm not going to spend too much time on because they are quite technical solutions. This is where we focus for clients with exit events. So Ray talked about Toto Mobile and obviously the hope there. If you have an incredible year as an IC, think about it takes time to build pipelines, build accounts. If you smash a number and suddenly are sat there with hundreds of thousands, potentially more, you can't put all of that in a pension. You can't put more than 20K in an ISA, so where do you go? So unit trusts are other investments which you can take 6K a year tax-free, Doesn't sound a lot, but if you and your wife do it, there's 12 grand a year, or husband. There's 12 grand that you can take from your investments per year. Investment bonds, I was touching on this earlier with a few guys. This is where exit events really need to be planned. If you make millions of pounds from an exit event, hundreds of thousands, you pay that into an investment bond in very simple terms, very simple, clearly not advice, you can generate 4% per annum from that. Because it's referred to as a tax-deferred withdrawal. So we say to clients, very simply, you add 100 grand to your plan every single year over the next 10 years, we believe we can generate an extra 40 grand a year in retirement. That's what we care about. This is what everybody needs. So when you do a presentation like this, I can sit here and talk to you about pensions and ISAs and tax solutions, and you'll probably forget most of that. So I'm downplaying that slide already. But this is the thing that I hope provokes a response for you to reflect on. We all want to retire at some point. Now, retirement, we were having a good conversation about this earlier, has a different shape nowadays. We don't just work until we're 60 and then stop and retire. Lots of people want to have a second career. They want to phase into retirement. They want to know that they could do something differently by 50 if they wanted to. People want choice. People want clarity. Most ICs and leaders I speak to have absolutely no idea what they want. And the sort of parallel I often strike is, I guarantee you've got a plan for your financial year, but you don't have a plan for your own life. It's a bit esoteric, I know, but come on, there's value in that. What we do is we use this financial modeling software to try and build your life plan. Now, this is a real client scenario, obviously anonymized, but let's call him Carl, right? So Carl is 50 years old. He wants to retire at 58. Okay, there's objective number 1. We've got 8 years to achieve your retirement capability. Carl wants to achieve 10 grand a month for the rest of his life. Cool, we've got metric number 2. The final metric is your capability. Based on what you're doing today, this is the basic value framework that you talk to your customers about, the current state versus the proposed future state. This is what you're on track for, Carl. That's not going to work. The impact, you can't retire at 58. You're going to have to work longer. How do you feel about that? Or we could look at 58, but it's now 7 grand a month. How do you feel about that? Our job is to show you, as ICs and leaders, how to fill the shortfall. Because then you have more choice, more security, more freedom. And you know what? The money there matters just as much as it does today. So we need to be thinking about it. I think when you do any presentation, having 3 things to focus on and take away is what rounds it up and really gives it some reflection. So for everyone in the room today, if you think about retirement, how long do you have? So if you don't know, that's the first takeaway. What do I want my life to look like over the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Because clearly, if it's in 5 years, there's a lot more pressure to get it right than if you've got 15 or 20. So that's our job, and James and I talk about this to educate, guide, and advise people more quickly in their careers or earlier in their careers so they can make better decisions. How much do you need? Again, most clients look at me very blankly when I talk to them about this. They go, I have no idea what do most people aim for. We kind of want to come away from that because you aren't most people. You are your own person, you've got your own life, you need to have your own purpose. Let's try and make it relevant. And are you on track? Most people have no idea. And that's where we're coming in today, to try and educate you on how you can make some different choices and get on top of it. You need to have a savings plan. What do I do each year? If I earn 200k, I'm taking home 116. Did you know that? That's 9 grand a month. If I'm spending 5, I should be saving 4. Just have some clarity on it. An income plan. If we go back to this, nobody's telling you at 58 how to take your income. You're not employed anymore. You've just spent 20, 30 years, PAYE. You've had a BMC software of the world or an Okta of the world or whoever it may be paying your salary. That doesn't exist anymore. You are responsible for creating it. So how are you doing that? How are you doing that to manage tax? And finally, what are the threats? Often clients go, well, the exit event might not happen, or I might not hit my number. Okay, yeah, of course, we can model that. What about health? What about something that happens with your family, or something like that? Life's unpredictable. Having a plan in place will help you be better prepared. And I just think that as we round up these sessions today, these are some things to reflect on. You all want to work, you all want to be successful, you all want to learn from other speakers. There's an end goal, What does that look like for you? And if you haven't had the chance to reflect on it, the best thing you can do, whether it be with us or not, is to do it now. So hopefully that's a bit of a takeaway for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good job. Good insights, super valuable, and a lot of the reasons why we came here. We just invite the speakers up so we can open up for some questions. This is your chance to ask some questions if you just want to come and hang out here at the front again. So I'll just warm it up, but mull over a question. We're all salespeople here, so it shouldn't be too difficult. I was just curious, based on Heather's talk, what's a 1% habit that you've adopted in your career that has really made an impact on your success? So one particular habit. Who's going to take that? Who's got the first? Got it?
So I have an end of day checklist that I run through, half stolen from a friend of mine that used to run the resus room at the Royal Free in Whitechapel, but also made sure I'd planned out what I needed to do the next day. And it meant that I didn't come in the morning and mess about for 30 minutes as I was trying to work out what to do, or I don't come in and suddenly be like, oh no, I didn't know I had to do this. So I, as far as possible, try and plan my next day the night before, my week on a Friday, my month on the last kind of Friday of a month, and just make sure I'm on top of everything that needs going on.
Who else?
I've got one there. Give me time to think. My one is, I think, same day follow-up for meetings, whether it's a customer meeting, team meeting, interview. If I've had an interaction that demands some sort of follow-up action, that demands a sort of follow-up, an email or whatever, then whether it's a meeting that was right at the end of the day, I've travelled home and it's late, it's become a bit of like an OCD thing. I can't wait till the morning to do it. I have to get the follow-up out straight away. And I remember really, really early, my first ever sales role, I'd been in a customer meeting and I was walking back to the office, and it was like, it was a weird culture of this company. Everyone left at bang on 5. Like as soon as the clock struck 5, it was like a ghost town. And everyone was walking out as I was walking in. And the VP of the company, a guy called Paul Monaghan, he was like, what are you doing, mate? And I was just like really, and I was walking in the opposite direction to everybody else. So I've got to do my follow-up email. And he was cracking up at me. And I was like, I just have to do it. I have to do it. And that stuck with me throughout. So I think that sort of professionalism and follow-up, whether it's an internal meeting or external, I think is the thing that I always do.
I think I already gave my 1%, which is the start your day on your own terms. But if I was to think of another one, there's a productivity hack called Eat the Frog, which is do the task that is kind of like the big ugly task. When you realise you've blocked out 4 hours one afternoon to do the task, and then you've opened the PowerPoint, you plan to do it, and it's still empty at the end of the day. So the frog is do the frog first, get that out the way. By 11 a.m. you've eaten the frog, and that has, again, a bit of a multiplier effect on how you feel about your day. You've achieved something, and there's a bit of momentum. So that would be my other hack.
Thank you. I've got one to add as well. I think it's underestimated. Maybe it comes from sport. Is I visualize whatever is going to happen next in the day or the evening. So tonight, from yesterday, the shower that I had, commuting in this morning, I've been visualizing how I would like something to play out. And I think that's really underdeveloped in most people. Like, how are you actually imagining the scenarios that you would like to play out in your meetings, in your days, in your weeks? Who's got a question that they would like to ask?
Thank you. My question's actually for Ray. It's you put up quite a detailed slide about the strategies and the executions, things that you implemented when you joined the company. I wanted to know, how long did it take you to put that together, firstly? And secondly, if there were iterations maybe necessary, or did you get it bang on the first time?
So it took a while, and it is iterated. So that draft we looked at is the current version. So it looked similar to that. But these are things that worked for me in the past. A lot of that isn't stuff that is necessarily specific to the business that I'm in, and actually that's going to be the playbook that I take into future companies when I do this again and again. But a business plan, I think, has to be, it can't be, this is the balancing act you have to try and strike, and I had to try and strike here, is if you arrive thinking you've got all the answers, then that can actually turn people off. It's like, you don't understand us. You just turned up today and you think you know what you're talking about, and you don't. So you have to kind of approach it with emotional intelligence and everything to say, this is what I think. What do you, and there's lots of input that goes into it, and it iterates, and the iterations come every day from ideas from within the team and the other leaders in the team, my leadership team. So yeah, it's an ongoing process basically.
I think it's actually, sorry, that's a really important point, Ray, because there was a book I read many years ago, which there was a book I read many years ago by Dan Kempa. It's like right from the start, right? So one of the advices that were given, or the advice that was given, is never come up with a plan too soon, right? But your point of making sure you got by your third day, you got the input from all the people that you had to take the input from, and then at that point, you can actually come up with a sensible plan. Whereas my approach in the last couple of 4 roles that I've had working with startups, growing their businesses, was always, let's make sure I get the full picture first before I come up with a plan, and don't rush into a plan too quickly. But I really love the fact that you came up with a plan very quickly, because that energy is amazing.
Next question. Who's got a question? Anyone? Yep.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that's reoccurring in all of your talks is discipline, right? It's always about discipline. And although everyone, I think, knows that discipline is very important and we should probably do as much as we possibly can, it is, I think, maybe one of the hardest things to get right. Now, I think any kid that is born has no discipline, and the older you get, the more disciplined you become. So it's obviously something you can learn. I'm wondering if you guys have any actionable steps on how to improve discipline, because I think, yeah, me being 26, that's still something I can probably improve.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, I would write your goals. There's a very famous Harvard study about graduates who wrote the goals, where they wanted to be specifically by the age of 30. The power of written goals and your own accountability to a written goal is proven. People that have written their goals down tend to overachieve. People who've thought about their goals get closer. People who are goalless or not specific about their goals, by when, what measure, will not have the same momentum. So I would start there and probably bucket it into different components of your life. So there is your job, of course. There's also your health. There's your family and your friends. And the 4 burners theory, you can't have all 4 of your oven top hobs on full blast at all times. So you have to decide which part of your life you want to be really disciplined about in different phases, which, as a mum of a 2-year-old, there's definitely been some changes to which hob is up for me. Anyone else?
I would just add, if I can very quickly, just remember, what's your why? I know it's as cheesy as it sounds, but when you're going through, we've all had it, bad quarters, dare I say even multiple quarters on a row, you've got to go back to, why have I chosen to do this? Why am I continuing to do this? And something that, again, begrudgingly, Ray said to me earlier in my career was, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And I think I always come back to that when I had a bad day, customer cancels, big case doesn't go ahead, hours of work, nothing to show for it. So, well, actually, this is the scars that I'm going to have in order to say in 10, 15, 20 years' time, look at this brilliant business that we've built. And I just think that as a SaaS seller, it's exactly the same. You're going to have deals that slip. You're going to have things that, rightly or wrongly, don't go your way. And actually, you just got to go, there's not a single IC in the world that's never had that. And actually, they're probably better for it. So the discipline point probably comes from you reflecting and going, again, this is my opinion on the case. You know what, there's no one in my position that hasn't gone through this before. So I just got to crack on and get on with it. Sometimes you just got to be like, I'm not unique. Let's just get on with it, just be very humble with it. And that would be my input.
Mine's on a very common theme. Make sure you write your goals down, but also dopamine is kind of, you work hard, you get a reward, right? It's essentially what you build your discipline on. If you don't break your goals down into small chunks at a step at a time, a step at a time, a step at a time, you can feel like you're aiming for something that you can't achieve. So if your goal is to be, say, a millionaire by 30, I'm sure Will will be able to give you some great advice, but also work out what you need to do each step of the way to hit that, because then each time you hit it, you get a release of the dopamine. It means you're actually then going to want to work harder for it, because if you understand like how the dopamine circuitry works, I won't bore everyone with it, but give it a read. Manageable chunks, you'll get the reward. You'll keep working. You'll keep working. You'll keep working.
All right, one final question. Who's got a question you'd like to ask? Olivia.
Thank you. My question is for Will, mainly. There is a long-standing perception that investing is for people that already earn X amount of money, or are already in a position where they have a certain amount of money a month that they can put into investment. Are you seeing a trend now where younger people are more interested in their long-term investment, or how do you encourage the younger, lower earning reps to get started sooner rather than later?
That's a brilliant question. Thank you. James and I talked about this, and obviously with the new sort of BDR and getting to 100k earnings, right? And let's be honest, 100k is a large amount of money, right? I think the average salary in the UK is about 30k. To your question, yes, we're seeing an uptick in it because of technological advances. Anybody in this room today can open an app and invest. Now, in many ways, that might not be a good thing, but in many ways it is. So accessibility is a key driving factor. If you go back in history, yes, you would need to be earning X amount to sit in front of someone that could enable that decision. So that's a positive. We have a lot to do to educate people on the reasons for and how to do it in the right way. There's an advice gap in the UK. And that's a broader UK problem. There are less than 30,000 regulated advisors in the UK, 66 million people in the UK, 67. There's stats that says there's millions of people that are referred to as affluent, which is anywhere between 50k and 5 million, I believe. It's quite a range of assets. But to your point, you don't have to have 50k of assets. If you've got visibility over where your income's going and what you're saving each month, I think that, most people should look into it. Obviously, I can't say you should definitely be investing, right? I don't know enough about the situation, of course. But I think that there's got to be some consideration for your short-term goals. Most people earlier in their careers need to secure their first home. That's their first objective. Now, it's not mutually exclusive. It shouldn't be I'm saving for my home so I can't invest. I don't believe that. But obviously, affordability plays into it. So to your question, I think everybody needs to have the opportunity to do so and have access to the right education in order to make the informed decision of whether they should. But that's the barrier that we're seeing. And that's what James and I are going to start working on for BDR and SDR events. Is my input there is going to be on educating the options. Because perhaps, because you're not at the exit event level of earnings, you don't need full financial planning advice. You still need to understand how you can make some decisions for yourself. Hopefully that helps.
Cool. We're going to wrap up there. Can we have a round of applause for the speakers? Thank you, guys. Appreciate the effort. Okay, I just want to take a moment before we get back into networking. We can finish our drinks that we got up. I just want to ask you some very thoughtful questions and also share with you kind of what we've got in place to help accelerate your career going forwards. The first question is, it's 2023, I believe we're in October, so there's 2 months left of this year. Honestly, to all of you in the room, I want you all to activate your brains for this one and put up your hand. How many of you believe that by the end of 2023, you're going to hit your financial earnings goal that you set at the beginning of this year? Hand up. Okay, probably about 30% of you. The first question is, why are you not on track to hit what you want to be able to achieve at the end of 23? Well, this is a period of reflection. What's not gone well for you this year? What's not been in place? Where have you not invested in yourselves in terms of development, in terms of getting there? The next question for 2024, how many of you in the end of 2023 are going to be setting new financial goals for 2024? After that talk, that should be 100% of you because that's what we're encouraging. Now, can everybody just think in their minds of what number of earnings you want to literally visualize this in your mind? What do you want your financial earnings to be at the end of 2024? Like, what is that figure that you have earned? Have you got it? Just nod when you've got that figure in your mind. This is something maybe if you haven't, you need to start thinking about more clearly with more clarity. Now add 20% to it. Right, how does that feel to have a bit of 20% on the number you already had in your head? Right, a few more smiles. Now the point is, one, I personally believe that you can all do more than you believe you can do. You just got to ask yourself that question of what is possible for you to end this year on and then into 2024. And then what I want to be able to do in terms of what we're doing at Sales Confidence is to kind of support you on that journey. Like someone said to me last week, which I thought was a good observation and amusing. They're like, why do you bother? Like literally, like why bother running around London doing these events? And I thought, that's a fair comment. Like, why do I still turn up? Like, I've been doing this for literally 5 years. I've been hosting events for salespeople in the UK. And genuinely, talking about purpose, like, I absolutely love what I do. But the main reason is because I remember when I was 20 and I told my friends I was going to earn 100K by the age of 25, not one of them believed me. Like, the reality is a lot of your peers, friends, and maybe even family don't believe it's possible for you to go and have exponential success in your life or your career. And I want to bring people together that have that type of growth mindset. Like, you've decided to come here tonight because you have something in you that wants to get to the next level in your career. You want to get to the next promotion, you want to get to the next earning goal, you want to give back. All right. And so, like, how can you connect with the people in this room on a regular basis? And that's why I do what I do. So, there's many people in the room that are already part of the Sales Confidence membership. And this is another accelerator for you to support you. Most of the people that get involved in what we do at this level are like, okay, how can I do bigger deals? How can I get exponential earnings? How can I reduce the sales cycle or increase my earnings? Like, I'm supporting salespeople and sales leaders at each stage of your career. And ultimately, the membership is a personal development membership. So you might be sitting there thinking, okay, can I get my company to expense this? Yes, probably. Can I invest in this myself? Absolutely. Or you might have a team of salespeople that you can put through our Sales Confidence membership. And ultimately, you'll get access to mentorship. That was mentioned tonight. A couple of the speakers mentioned having professional coaching, one-to-one coaching. So how can you get access to coaching to help you get to the next level? The key thing, I believe, is who's in your inner circle. There's probably people that you will meet tonight that you could stick with that will help you get to the next stage in your career. So here's in your peer group circle and how are you helping them? And then also just getting access to the content. We can all go on YouTube, read books. The problem is you get onto YouTube, you're watching something useful, then you see a kittens video and you start going down that route. Then you see the Kardashians and you're watching the Kardashians. And then before you know it, you're watching Dancing Clowns. Well, that's just my YouTube viewing. The point is, you need focus, and we've got focus, expertise and content. And then we have our meetups and dinners. And ultimately, we will put you in a peer group. So we've got the top sales leaders in the UK and individual contributors running these peer group circles that you can get part of. And those leaders are well recognized from their performance and career success. So ultimately, basically what I'm just educating you on is that you can get access to a personal development membership that can help you with your goals for 2024. I really want to help you get there. And just the final couple of points, just so you're aware, these are the options in terms of the investment levels. There's a tier for all of your earning potential. It's less than a few percent if you're already in the six-figure range of earnings. And tonight, basically, you'll get an email from me with an opportunity. If you decide to sign up tonight, you'll get access to our dinner, some coaching calls in the next group. That's the final thought from me. I'd love to have conversations with people that want to get involved. We've actually got two new SDRs. They haven't even started. They start on the 6th of November, but they've already showed up, which I love. So great for that. But can I just have a round of applause again for the speakers, because they did an amazing job. And also just one more round of applause to you for showing up, because you're taking advantage. So well done, everybody. Thanks for hosting. Thanks, Will, for the collaboration, and Peter and Gabriella for the videography. Grab a drink, ask questions of the speakers, ask questions of me, of Will. Get some value. You're here now. Take advantage of being in the present. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.